This is Never Gallimore from the Dallas Cowboys, and I want to give a major shout out to Mike Tag. Keep bringing the hype to the Cowboys Nation. We love and appreciate it. Now, can you dig it? Let's get it.
Can you feel me? Now, can you dig it?
What is up, Cowboys Nation? Your boy Mike Tag, soon to be joined by Kelly K9. We got on a hair late because we were BSing and I was in the wrong spot, so I had to send him the link again. So he'll be jumping in. But before we get started, just want to remind you again, if you hadn't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share it, spread the word because we got a lot to say and we're going to be getting into it. You know, we might be, hopefully, we'll see. Yeah, there is no off season with football, so I'm sure we'll be continuing to do it and hopefully building up into a much better 2023. So we got a lot to go through. You know, we heard a lot of the news. So we've got some coaching changes. We got some coaches staying. So we are definitely going to be getting into it. So let me know, how's your feeling so far? You know, if you heard the press conference of Mike McCarthy, you know, they've let some coaches go, doing some evaluating. Wasn't really committal on Kellen Moore. Kind of dodged some of those questions. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens and how some of these coaching changes affect what's going on. So let me make sure. Hopefully, my boy Kelly K9's coming in. I sent him a link, but we'll get started and then we'll have him jump in and get his take. But really, you know, the big news of the day that I think all of us are excited about is Dan Quinn is staying. So that's got to be a big sigh of relief. The defense played their ass off on Sunday, did everything possible to get us to that next level, and unfortunately it didn't work out. But Dan Quinn's building something, and that core defense is there. You know, you got to expect that all the key guys will be returning. There's always change. There's always a little bit of turnover, but you gotta feel good with the consistency that you're going to get with Dan Quinn staying. So that's a good sign. On the flip side, I want to wait till Kelly gets in to get his opinion. But we're going to be talking about the offensive side. What's up, Vince? Glad you're able to jump on. We got Winston. I appreciate it. And let's see. Still not able to talk about where to go with this team because it's gut wrenching. That loss was gut wrenching, and I'm a sore loser. I don't like to lose, so it took a little while to get over it. But what do you do? I mean, this is what Kelly and I talked about. Is we're going to do this show, and this is kind of we're going to be we're looking back, but it's stopping after here. All we got to do is look forward because we can't continue to look back. We can't change what happened. Um, there's nothing we can do about it. We got to figure out where we go from here. And there he is. There's my man Kelly. What's up, brother?
Not a whole lot, man. I had a few technical difficulties on my end, man, but I'm here.
That's on my fault. I was in the record mode, just messing around, and then you jumped on. I started talking to you. I got distracted. But we're talking about Dan Quinn. You know, the news today, he's staying. So, I mean, obviously it's got to be positive, but what's your kind of reaction to that news?
Hey, that's all good news, man. I'm about that. Yeah. You got me?
I got you. You're good now. You got a little shaky for a minute.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what's going on. My computer is doing some funky stuff. But yeah, Dan Quinn back to the Cowboys. I was elated about that, man. That was really good news. I mean, being kind of having this last week's been kind of demoralizing, but having a guy like Quinn come back and continue to prove this defense and have a solid defense, that's a really solid cornerstone going in next year.
Yeah. I mean, and the good thing is he was a wanted man. I mean, he turned down, he had some interviews, but he just told him, hey, I'm happy. I want to stay. I want to finish what I started. And that's the kind of passion. That's kind of what you want to hear is that passion of the guy wants to go. And the players love him. We all know that. The players love him. So it's going to be very nice to keep this defense consistent. Now, though, we'll get into some other stuff, but one of the key things I wanted to get into was probably the hottest topic, and I've talked about this on a couple shows. And Dak Prescott, Kellen Moore. Um, Dak Prescott's probably not going nowhere. We all understand that.
Yeah.
Kellen Moore, the relationship, and I saw Law Nation kind of tweet it out, and I've talked about it a few times. These guys were peers. These guys were teammates. These guys, very close. And I just don't think it's working. Now, the numbers will stay different, but in critical situations that we know, it's just not working. And I just think you got to shake it up. I mean, they've been shaking up the offensive staff now. You can't stay consistent with what's going on because the results aren't positive. They've been the same. So we got to change something. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty critical of Dak in that game that he had against the 49ers because, and rightfully so. I think he deserved to have some criticism thrown his way. I think he deserves to have some pressure on him. And the fan base is split down the middle. Yeah, it used to be 50-50. Right now, I'd say it's probably more about 70-30, with about 70% ready to have Dak's head. But obviously, we can't move on from that contract. But I do think that they cannot bring this offensive system back as constructed. You got to move on from Kellen Moore. You just have to. You got to bring somebody in that can do so. And when I look at things like so, Dak has talent. There is no doubt in my mind he's a talented guy. He's got all God-given abilities to go out there and be a great quarterback. He does. I believe that. I don't think Kellen Moore does him a whole lot of favors. I saw something in a stat that came out after the game was over, and it talked about how play action Dak was like against the Niners was damn near perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But when they took him out and they didn't run play action, he was god awful. That's where his turnovers came from. So you need an offensive coordinator that knows your quarterback's strengths and that plays to it. If you get a guy like Shanahan that can plug and play any quarterback that they give him, Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo, whoever he has, he makes it work. That's what we need with Dak, that plays to their strengths and says, all right, this is what my guy does well. This is what he doesn't. This is we're going to cater the game plan around. So they need an offensive coordinator that can come in and do that for Dak. So we have to do that.
No, without a doubt. I mean, it's Michael Irvin talked about it. We can't get rid of the quarterback. I mean, it is hard. There's teams that have been waiting 20 plus years to find a quarterback. Dak has shown the ability. There's no doubt about it. What kills me is in the critical situations, and then it just seems like we get out schemed and we don't have an adjustment for it. The play that I always go back to, and again, I told the folks before you jumped on, we're going to talk about we'll talk about the past because we want to go through the season a little bit, but that play with the 49ers, 2nd and 2 inside the red zone. Sometimes these coordinators, and I think Kellen's one of them, they want to get too cute. They want to show what they got. Sometimes you just got to run the ball and smash it in their mouth on 2nd and 2. And if you don't get it, maybe it's 3rd and 1 and you do it again. And you kill the clock and you're in field goal range. You're going into halftime, with the lead. And they got too cute. But then I got to blame Dak because why the hell are you throwing that ball in that situation in double coverage to there? You just got to throw it away and live to play the 3rd down. So it's a little bit of both, but you can't. It's hard to find a quarterback. So you've got to change it up. And I think the one that's got to go is Kellen Moore. It's been all these years, and like I said, it's when you look at the numbers, it's a lot of great stuff, man. And people's like, God, number 1 offense in the league 2 years in a row, and this and that. He ain't getting a job. I mean, he hadn't gotten a head coaching job. And you show me an offensive coordinator. I mean, except for Bieniemy, which. I mean, we know that Reed calls a lot of plays, and that kind of probably hurts him in getting that consideration. Those kinds of offensive coordinators, they're gobbled up quick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the thing about Kellen Moore is that, and this is why I have hope for Dak, because I think that Kellen Moore, I don't think he's very creative, honestly. I think he's been lucky that he's got a quarterback like Dak. And like I said, I get it. Dak has struggled, but Dak can come out there and he can make all the throws that any other of the big time quarterbacks can. I've seen it happen. I know it's possible. I think his confidence has been a little bit shaken. I don't think the front office did him any credit. Um, by the wide receiver crew. I don't think they did him any favors with that. They were lacking separation all year. I think Dak just got to the point where he felt he had to do too much sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think that led to some of the bad decision making, some of the bad turnovers. And like I said, not to, you know, give Dak none of the blame. He definitely deserves his share of it. But I just think Kellen Moore. There's something about him that he's one of them guys that fills the stat box, and he can fill the stat box up with that
Yeah.
offense. But when it comes down to it, and he goes up against a good defense that's been watching tape, and they're like, "Well, this is what they do. We're going to shut that down." It's like he doesn't have an answer for it. The creativity's not there. He gets cute when he doesn't need to, and I just think he puts Dak in some bad positions. From a play calling standpoint. So yeah, I mean, if this team is going to have any chance at doing what we saw the Philadelphia Eagles do and the 49ers do this year and advance the NFC Championship game, they need a new offensive coordinator in there, and somebody that it's got to be somebody that's all in on Dak. Like, hey, I like this guy. I know what he can do, and we're going to cater this offense around to him.
Yeah,
So,
they definitely got to change it up. And looking back at the season, you know, um, man, it pains me to say, you look at what Philly did, and
yeah,
they had that rookie contract, and they got him on a rookie deal, and they went all in. Man, they went all in, and it's so right now we'll see. We'll see what happens Sunday, but right now it's paid dividends. And I always
yeah,
go back to those years with Dak when you had him on that rookie deal, and that's where I got to give a lot of blame and a lot of hate towards Jones is they didn't do it. They had a quarterback that was making pennies and they
yeah,
didn't do it. You saw Seattle do it, and now
yeah.
you see Philly do it.
Hmm.
And Micah Parsons got some heat and for a comment he made. And they maybe they want to twist it. I want to get your opinion to see what you think. But he said 3 of the 4 quarterbacks that are in the championship game are on rookie deals. And a lot of people took that as a shot at Dak, saying basically when you pay your quarterback, you're not able to get the pieces around. I don't know if that's what he meant, but one thing that concerned me about this team, especially after Sunday, is could you see a chance where you're getting a divided locker room where the defense is like, hey, man, you know, we held them we're holding these teams to points and 19 points and you ain't getting it done. And what's your thoughts on that? Could you see that happening, or is this team kind of above that?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that they would be above that, but the thing is that if you keep ending up in the same spot and the one constant is that your quarterback is playing bad in these big moments, which let's face it, last year against San Francisco, he did not play a good game. This year against San Francisco, again, he did not play a good game. So that's 2 years in a row, in a big moment that, your quarterback, you're looking for him to be the leader. You're looking for him to be the guy to advance you to the next round. And he didn't do it. So
Yeah.
he's gonna face heat and he's gonna get criticism and it might start to, I don't think it has gotten to that point right now. But I think if it continues down the same path and we don't see some changes and some differences in this team going forward next year, then the locker room might start to become divided. And there might start being some guys in there that start chirping about, man, maybe we need a new quarterback. Because, I mean, how long do you give a guy? Because the thing about it is, we got a pretty young team right now. We've got a really young defense, some cornerstone pieces on the defense. But I mean, that passes by in the blink of an eye, man. Before you know it, your team's not young anymore; they're old, and that window is past. And then
Yeah.
you're talking about trying to retool and rebuild. I feel this team still has a Super Bowl window, and but they have to capitalize on it because those windows don't stay open long. You're talking a couple of years, 2 to 4 years maybe.
Yeah.
Right now at this point, I'd say it's probably within the next 2 to 3 years that they need to do something with this, or it's all for naught.
No, they've got to definitely it's got to be a win now mentality. And I think this offseason is going to be a test to see what they do. So I mean, looking back at the season, so you know, let's start week 1. You know what's crazy is I looked back, I was going through some of the video, pictures. I was doing like a year-end thing, and you look back at the season, games you went to and stuff. I I mean, you and I were together at the first game. It seems like years ago.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought it was last season. I thought it was I kept going back and forth. It's like, man, no, it had to have been the playoff game we were at. It wasn't the first game of the season, but it was the first game of the season. Seems like ages ago that we opened with Tampa Bay, and you go through that and we lose that game. Dak gets hurt. The whole world, the world is ending, right? Whole world, Cowboys world's ending, and Dallas comes back and they beat Cincinnati. Yes, with Burrow. Yes, with Chase. Yes, with their boys. We beat them with our backup quarterback, and then we beat the Rams before the Rams are really in the tank. I mean, we beat them when they were kind of still considered a Super Bowl favorite. So you have that stretch with the backup, so there's hope again.
Yeah.
And what was your thoughts, kind of in that early part of the season when you lose Dak and now you got your backup? Take us through maybe the 5 games. What's your thought process there? With the team.
Yeah. At that point in time, I thought this was a Super Bowl team. I thought it was a Super Bowl. I wasn't sitting there telling everybody, "Hey, we're going to the Super Bowl" or anything like that. But I thought, man, if the defense plays like they're playing play like they were playing when Cooper Rush was the quarterback, and we're only putting up 19 points a game, but we're holding teams to 17. That was the average score at that time. I'm thinking, man, think about how much better this team's going to be when Prescott comes back, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, man, this team has got a very high ceiling, and then so at that time anyway, through those first 5 games before Dak made his return or whatever, I was thinking this team's got a chance to play in the Super Bowl. I'm like, we got a championship caliber defense, and we'll see what this offense can do when Dak comes back. But yeah, I was feeling myself after that, because honestly thought the season was over when Dak went down
Yeah.
week 1. They're talking about a 4 to 6 week time table to come back from injury. So I was thinking we're done.
Yeah.
We're gonna win maybe one game without Dak, and it's gonna be too late at that time. We come back and we're gonna be too far behind in the standings. So,
Yeah. And
but
well, you look at the schedule. Look at it. You think back to it, and yeah, I mean, they had to play Cincinnati. And like I said,
yeah,
the Rams the Giants, who ended up being a playoff team, right? I mean, they had to
yeah,
play the Giants. I think maybe it was Washington. I'm starting to lose track. Then they lost to Philly, but when they got back, it was the same. When Dak got hurt, it was a little concerning. It was just pray that he could be all right. Maybe we can hold the fort down or whatever. It'd be one of those seasons. Maybe we're 10-7, or it's 9-8, whatever these records are now with the games. And when that defense they went to another level. They were good in Tampa. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we didn't lose a game because of the defense. But when Prescott went down, it seemed like they went to another level. And that's when you're thinking, oh my God, when Prescott comes back, this thing is, I mean, it's a wrap.
yeah.
And Prescott comes back, and then it just seems like the defense
Put it in
lost a
cruise
little bit
control.
for a while, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
I thought they kind of put it. It seemed like they almost put it into cruise control, and you're going, where'd this defense go that we just like? Dak comes back and the defense just kind of started dropping off. And like, what the hell is going on here?
yeah. So it makes you think, as a defense, like, are their mindsets different? Like, they said, hey, man, we got to win these games with the backup. When Dak maybe they come off, because that's the way it was. But then when you got near, kind of near the end of the season and in the playoffs, the defense turned up again. Like Tampa Bay in the playoffs, in San Francisco in the playoffs, that was the best defense we've played all year. I mean, even in
Yeah.
those elite times, I mean, a defense, they did everything they got to do. So, getting Quinn back, I guess I'm going in a full circle. So getting Quinn back, that makes me feel like, all right, we're going to take that next step. Yeah, maybe we're not going to be the Ravens, or maybe we're not going to be the 2000 Buccaneers or something like that. But this defense, with a couple pieces, is going to be a defense to reckon with in 2023.
I think so too. And what I'd like to see this defense do is, whether by the draft or whether by free agency, continue to add to this defense. I mean, I understand that Dak needs some help and needs another wide receiver, outside of CeeDee Lamb. But I mean, I feel like we've got some good tight ends. I feel like if we can get Pollard back in the fold, that's another great pickup. But, if they could add another DB on the other side of Diggs, on that other outside corner, get ourselves another DB. I mean, that's in free agency. I'd like to see them try to go out and get one that's a proven DB in free agency versus try to draft one. But yeah, I mean, if they can go out there and make some moves. And the thing is, if you're the Cowboys front office, I don't get how you can watch what the Rams did, you can watch what the Eagles did, and sit there and tell yourself these aren't the kind of moves that you should be making. Like, aggressive front offices are being rewarded by playing in championship games, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's 2 years in a row now that we've seen this. We've got, and like I said, we still have to see what happens Sunday with the Eagles, but I mean, hell, they're in the NFC championship game. So, I mean, from last year being a one and done playoff team to now NFC championship game, their front office went out there and they were not content. They went out there and made the moves, got pieces they needed to be successful. And our front office needs to be a little bit more aggressive this year.
Yeah, and looking at even like the Chiefs, I mean, with 5 years in a row in the championship game, and a couple that's with Mahomes' contract, they made some tough decisions at receivers, but they were aggressive, you could say, in free agency to get the right pieces to fit their system, and that's where I keep saying is I don't know what our system is, so I don't know what pieces we need, but I'll hope that the pieces, and it's no disrespect, I hope the key pieces in the system are like a Noah Brown. I mean, Dennis Houston was our starting receiver, if you remember, in the first game. I hope they have a better plan for that. So going into free agency, I'll put this up. I mean, these are our key free agents. So you're looking at obviously Pollard, Schultz, you got Hilton, Terrence Steele's restricted. You got, obviously Jason Peters. I don't know, he's old. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm looking at the defense. Really focusing on the defense. I think with Quinn coming back, I think that pretty much to me thinks Van Der Esch is coming back. Anthony Brown's the intriguing one because he had some injuries and you saw Bland step up. So maybe he's not going to be able to sign for a big deal. So maybe you get him back on the cheap. I love Donovan Wilson. I think he brings some hit. Fowler was a Quinn guy, so looking at this list and focusing maybe on the defense first, what's your priority?
On the defensive side, I'd probably say Donovan Wilson. I'd like to see, like you said, I'd like to see him get re-signed. He's got some good stuff. I like him. I like Leighton Van Der Esch as well. I see that about let everybody go except LVE and Steele. We'll touch on the offense here in a minute, but I do like I like Leighton Van Der Esch. I thought he played really great this year. Had a great season. I mean, I think they ended up second in tackles on the team,
4 games,
and missing 4 games. And I mean, and he played well versus San Francisco. I mean, he had a resurgence this year, and so I think that they could get LVE signed on a deal that'll be a team friendly deal. Because you got to look at he has had some injury issues. It's not like he's played with his hair on fire for the last 3 years or so. I mean, he just this year he brought back some of the LVE that we saw his rookie season. So I think that they could probably get him on a fairly cheap deal. And I feel like he's a guy that really likes Dan Quinn. So, I feel like he's a DQ guy as well too. So I'd like to see them keep him and Wilson. Outside of that though, those are all kind of guys that are, kicking the tire kind of guys, I should say, where you can get those and you can bring replacements in for those guys. So
I know my man Ultra Cowboys, Izzy is the Wilson replacement. I don't think so. I mean, I almost think Izzy might end up being a cornerback the way that they've moved him.
Yeah.
Donovan Wilson's is a hitter. I mean, he's old school hitter. It all comes down to money. I mean, you're looking at this list and I don't think LVE is going to demand a big contracts. That's why I think he'll come back. Yeah. I mean, you could probably, let him go. He's getting older, and you got Clark. You got Cox that you expect some things from at linebacker. Donovan Wilson, it's just a matter of if the team's going to give him a big deal. I don't know if he would demand a big contract. When I'm looking at our defensive side, I don't see players that are going to demand a big contract. I could be wrong. On the offensive side, I think it could be different.
Yeah, I don't see anybody. I don't foresee anybody on the defensive side anyway that would get a contract that's too rich for the Cowboys' blood.
Yeah.
And as far as Leighton Vander Esch goes, I feel like I feel like he's one of those guys that wants to stay in Dallas, and I feel like he's not going to want to go anywhere else. So I think that him and his agent that will work out a deal, and a deal will get done with him. I don't foresee him going anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be interesting, and like CJ, Goodwin. I think, with Kelvin Joseph, he's been kind of the special teams ace more. So I mean, it just depends. The trouble with some of these guys that are role players, and it kind of sucks for them in a way, is they are they're a victim of their tenure. And when you become so many years in the league, your base salary has to be at a higher level. So what
Yeah.
happens is teams, they're going to take their sixth and seventh round draft picks. They're going to use a lot of them on special teams. There's backups, to the backups. And
Hello, this is former Denver
whoops,
Bronco Rick Upchurch.
my man Rick Upchurch wanted to chime in. I had to turn him
Oh,
down.
hey there, Rick.
Great Denver Bronco. Great interview with Rick Upchurch. Just to give me a shameless plug, you can go back to the video archives and watch it. He was awesome, and he had a lot to say about some things happening with the strike and with free agency and stuff. But no, what I was saying with these veterans is they end up needing more money, so for salary cap reasons, they end up moving on from them. So that's why you always see like some of these guys, like, man, where the hell they go? They're out of the league. And so I think that could end up happening with Goodwin, unfortunately, especially with Kelvin Joseph being on a rookie deal, even though he might be a little higher. I don't know if they've given up on him as a cornerback. I could be wrong. My son is begging that I'm wrong, and that they or that I'm not wrong, and they haven't given up on him. But we'll see what happens. But on the offense, it's really a couple guys. You got Pollard, you got
Yep.
Schultz, and you got Terrence Steele, who's a restricted free agent. So
Yeah.
they hold the cards there a little bit, or get compensation, or whatever way that
Yeah.
whatever that'll work for him. But I mean, Pollard, just a heartbreaking injury. You
Tough.
never like to see that. He's going to be, I think, a victim of not being able to get a big deal because being injured at the last game of the year. What's your thoughts on him? And I think Schultz, we might both agree, we might have saw him play his last game in San Francisco.
I think Schultz. I think Schultz is gone. I think Steele is an absolute re-sign. Guy just has continued to get better and better every year. Former Texas Tech guy, so shout out to my guy. And then Pollard, he's definitely. I think he's a guy that'll be back. Now the interesting thing will be how much money that he's going to want, and how much Dallas will be willing to pay him. I think that Dallas, after the Zeke deal, is going to be a little bit gun shy on giving any running back too much money. And here's the thing. I feel like running backs don't have the leverage that they once had. I mean, you think about it. There's not a lot of running backs out there that are getting big contracts anymore, just because that's just not the way the NFL's set up. You can go out here and you can draft a running back, and you can get a guy in the middle round, middle to late round, that can come in and contribute. It's all about your schemes and, your blocking schemes. You got a good offensive line. Can you run the ball behind them? So I think that they're going to try to bring Pollard back. Absolutely. I think they will. But
franchise tag him. I've heard those rumors, and I know it's a question. You franchise him. I think it's like a $10 million hit 1 year.
If they do that, there's no way they're bringing. There's no way Zeke stays on the team. There's just. I don't think that they're paying him a franchise and then keeping Zeke on, because that. How much? I hadn't looked at it, but Zeke's got a pretty decent amount of money that he's owed.
They're not key. They're not. There ain't no way they're going to keep him at his contract. And we're going to get in. We can get into it a little bit now. He's at like 18 million. He said he'd take a pay cut. And listen, this part pains me because I am a Zeke fan. I'm always the fan of the running backs. And it's just really, really unfortunate, but I just don't know what he's got left. I mean, he looks like the mind is there and the heart is there, but I think the body is
Yeah.
just not letting him go. I mean, he just
Yeah.
does not break the tackles. He's good short yardage. I mean, he runs so hard. I mean, but what
Yeah.
do you pay that? I mean, and that's
Yeah.
the tough thing is you got to make it a business decision, and that's why I always say I don't care what these guys make and what they sign for because
Yeah.
this is a situation where he's probably not going to see. He's not seeing his full contract. If they cut him, I don't know what kind of money he would get. I mean, I don't know where he's gonna. He may come back to Dallas at almost near minimum salary, a couple $1,000,000. I don't know. Maybe pride would get in the way, but
Yeah.
I don't know what he
Well,
can sign for to stay.
here, the thing is right now, Zeke doesn't really have any leverage.
No,
Because I don't think that there's out of all the 31 other teams, I don't think out there that's like, we got to have Zeke Elliott's our missing piece, or Zeke
yeah,
Elliott can, because I mean, great run blocker. I love the guy, man. And, over the years and then through Twitter and stuff, I actually, got to know his mom and met her at a
yeah,
game. Met her at a game one time. She was actually here in Omaha with her daughter one time at a volleyball tournament, and I got to meet her, and me and the kids and her, we all went, had dinner and stuff. So great people. He's a great dude, super good, and I'd love to see him stay with the Cowboys. But I mean, at the same time, it's like, you saw Zeke this year, and he kind of looked the shell of himself. I mean, he gets some of those hard yards, he gets some of those dirty yards. He's a great blocker, but I mean, you know, are
it's
you
tough.
paying a running back to just block? You
Yeah,
know, because
no.
in that San Francisco game, I mean, everything looked hard for him. Everything he was doing just looked super difficult. So
And the pain of it all is yeah. And Zeke's mom's awesome. I mean, yeah, she's very interactive on Twitter. We met her at one of the games. It was so funny. Long story, um, but she's just a great person and a great
yeah,
family. And you hate to see it. And the last image, and this is why I really hate Kellen Moore. The last image I got of Zeke on the field is some stupid ass play where they got him hiking the ball and getting blown up by a defensive tackle is just absolutely it was atrocious, and I don't know what the hell they were doing. It was just a dumb, like, to quote Jimmy Johnson, dumb. That's all he
yeah,
could say on the play, and that's unfortunate. And hey, man, if they can bring him back on a very very friendly deal, and he knows his role, but I mean, Tony Pollard's averaging, I think in his 4 years, is 5.2 yards a carry. I mean, you
yeah,
can't ignore that. Now, I don't think Pollard can be the workhorse, so you got to get someone else. Now,
yeah,
we got Malik Davis, and he showed some promise right early in the season. He had a couple opportunities preseason. He looked good. I believe he was from Florida, if my memory's right. So, I mean, come from a big school, run hard, or they can draft a guy. And I know a lot of people, like Robinson, right? I mean, I'm not drafting a running back in the first round. I'm just telling you, I'm done with that.
yeah,
Um, when I'm looking at these running backs that are in the NFL now, I'm thinking of that Seattle kid, and his name's escaping me. But Jesus, man, he runs hard, and some of these other running backs you're getting in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth round. I just think Cowboys have more pressing needs than to get a running back in the first round.
yeah. I don't. I think yeah, you're right. And this, when it comes to the first round, I mean, DB, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive tackle. All of those to me are ahead of running back. Every one of them, especially when you look at some of the running. There you go, Kenneth
Kenneth Walker,
Walker.
that was it.
I mean, yeah,
We
you
should
look
know
at,
his name because I'm pretty sure that's a Michigan State kid who absolutely annihilated my Miami Hurricanes.
yeah, and I mean, you look at guys like that. I mean, honestly, the NFL right now, if you look down the line, it's littered with running backs that have not been taken in the first or second round. They're guys that have been taken third, fourth, fifth, sixth. I mean, all throughout the draft. You just got to look at a guy that that fits your scheme, and figure out what you want. We've got Pollard as our lightning kind of guy. Now you need a thunder guy, a guy that's going to be your power, short yardage situations. Because if you're not keeping Zeke for that, then yeah, do that. So yeah, it's. I'm definitely not taking a running back in the first round.
No, I just can't. I just can't. I just
Too many other
unless he's
needs.
unbelievable, and it's unbelievable. I mean, but I think we've got too many needs, and I think we need to. I think we need to address it. Now, I haven't looked at the draft. I'm no draft expert. What I'll say is I'm going to bring in some people that do know college football, know the draft, at least know the players and know the draft, and get their opinions. But I mean, we talked about it. Key positions for us, right? Cornerback, offensive line. You can never have enough, and we've seen that with the injuries that we've had.
Yeah.
Defensive line, you could
Mhm.
you could throw in linebacker if you lose a couple guys. You don't know who's coming back and who's so we've got it wide receiver. I mean, if you're going to take something in the first round on offense, to me it would be a receiver if there's one
Yeah.
worthy of taking it because I think we've definitely got some issue at receiver. So there's a lot of holes, not a lot of holes, but there's a lot of spots that we need some patchwork. I still think this is a championship roster. I still think they've got it. They've just got to fix a couple spots, make some upgrades where they can. I don't think they need to make, and they won't because they don't do it anyway. I don't think they need to go out and make some huge free agency splash, but I think they need to be very strategic and very uh, smart about what they go out and get and to improve this roster.
You know what's funny is I saw something today, and I'm not going to get everybody wrapped up in it or anything, and I don't take much credence in it, but I thought it was interesting that Vegas always has odds on, they have odds on everything
Oh, yeah.
you can imagine, right? Well, the odds on favorite to land a certain NFC East running back was the Dallas Cowboys. Kind of surprised me to see that name, but it was Saquon Barkley.
No way.
And I thought to myself, first of all, I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. And that this is like the first healthy season that Saquon's had pretty much for the entire season. But I will say this, he looked pretty good this year. But it was curious. I was curious just because I thought to myself, why would the Cowboys be the odds on favorite to land him? Because I feel like I don't think he's going to be able to command a lot of money just because of his injury history. So, I mean, I don't know if he was an affordable back out there and he was a guy that they could get for a fairly low price or not a
Yeah.
huge something. But anyway, I don't think that's going to happen. I just thought it was
That's
funny.
it. Hey,
Running backs that
Vegas is smart.
they are.
I'll never discount what Vegas has to say. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like Steven said, I mean, injury prone, that's a problem. And it's just these running backs, I mean, we've seen it, and it's just sad. They get a lot of mileage, and they just their shelf life has gotten shorter. And a lot of it is, we talk about the Emmitt Smiths and we talk about some of these other guys in the past, but these guys are getting bigger and they're getting faster, and your body can only take so much punishment, man. I mean, you're talking about these guys that are 300 plus pounds that are running sub fives. That's just not that ain't normal. I mean, when you got, look at Micah Parsons. He's not the biggest guy, but I mean, he's a big man and he's faster than receivers. He can run. I mean, it's unbelievable. And the collisions that these guys get, it's tough, man. It's tough on them. That's why you need a stable of running backs. I mean, look at what San Francisco's been able to do, and you look what some of these. I mean, you got to give Philly credit. Look what they've been able to do with some of their running backs. Pollard's not going to be your bell cow. It's just he's not built that way. And if you do, I think you lose what's special in him. I think what's special in him is that ability that he has. And if you wear him down, I think you're going to lose that throughout the year. You're talking 17 games. You go in the playoffs. I mean, you could be at 21 games in the Super Bowl. Man, a running back, that's almost 2 seasons of the way it was before. So
and I feel like that, almost every team out there has multiple running backs, whether it be 2 or 3 guys that they're kind of moving in and out of the rotation or whatever and giving them carries. You don't see anybody that's just where it's just one single running back. So, yeah, I think that the Cowboys definitely will have to get a piece in there. It'll be interesting to see what they do at the running back position. That's one of the positions that interests me that I'll definitely be watching to kind of see what they do. But yeah, Pollard, I think, is a piece in this offense that we want to keep. We want to run it back with him on this offense.
Yeah. So looking at off-season needs, there's a lot of speculation, right? We talked a little bit about Kellen Moore. He come back? They going to bring him back, I should say, because he's under contract. You look at McCarthy. I mean, he's taking some heat. I don't know why, but all right, he's taking his share of heat. What are you wanting to see in this offense, and people in the chat as well, or not offense, in this team in the offseason? I know a lot of people with the Cooper, everything that happened kind of last season gave people some bad feelings about this year. And I think for the most part, the Cowboys dodged a bullet. They proved wrong, right? Gregory signing that kind of got all bumbled up. It worked out pretty good to the Cowboys' advantage, right? Armstrong certainly proved that he can do it. The Cooper one probably was the one that stings, but there was some other signings. Tyler Smith draft, everyone made fun of. That turned out to be pretty good and pretty damn important because we lost Tyron Smith the first in like a training camp. So, I mean, what are you thinking in this offseason? What would make you feel, all right, you know what? We won a playoff game, beat the Bucs, lost to San Francisco again. But let me make a one point to these San Francisco fans because they're giving me a lot of crap on social media. You guys, I'm old enough, maybe you guys weren't. I'm old enough to remember when we took care of business in the playoffs. We put you guys out every year. And the difference when we put you guys out, we won Super Bowls. You guys haven't done that yet. So the jury's still out as it really matters. Because if you get bounced next week, which I pray you don't because I don't want to hear Eagle fans, but if you guys get bounced, it all didn't matter. Just your team a week later than ours.
Yeah, no, exactly. I agree with that. Me personally, man, I like I said earlier, I want to keep building on this defense because I feel like that we've got a defense that's on the edge of greatness, and one of these defenses that can be talked about as, we were one of the top defenses this year, but I'm talking about being the best, hands down, start to finish, the best.
You want the Ravens level, the Bucks level, the 85 Bears.
I want that because if you do, then I think you can mask some of the deficiencies that we may have on offense. Now, don't get me wrong. I still want them to go out and address the wide receiver position. I think you need to get Dak Prescott. You owe it to him to get him another wide receiver, and CeeDee Lamb too, on the outside of CeeDee Lamb, on the other side of CeeDee Lamb that you can depend on. But I'd love to see the Cowboys, honestly, they need a D tackle, somebody that can stop the run, a Vita Vea type, an Ndamukong Suh back in the day, that kind of guy that's clogging up the middle, stop the run, and then get themselves an outside cornerback to be on the other side of Diggs that can help shut down the other side. Because I'm telling you, man, if we get it to where this Cowboys team is solid against the run, that's no longer a weakness. They can stop the run. They can stop you on the pass. I mean, you can make it very, very difficult on some of these offenses with big playmakers like you have in Philly, because they've got a couple of great wide receivers. You make it really difficult on those guys because if you can't run the ball and you can't throw the ball, it's hard to win if you can shut down both the pass and the run. So I'd love to see the Cowboys get something to shore up that run defense.
And the Jalen Ramsey name came up in the chat, and there's rumors he might be disgruntled. The Rams are kind of going stuff. Let's just play hypothetical. If he was unhappy, you had an opportunity to get him via a trade, that Cowboys were good with. Would that make you happy? Or is he too much baggage that you think that the juice ain't worth the squeeze? Or,
I mean, I don't think that I would say no to a Jalen Ramsey just because of the fact that if you have Jalen Ramsey on one side and Diggs on the other, I mean, that's a pretty damn good combo. Because, let's just say for the sake of argument that Ramsey has, maybe he's fallen off just a little bit, which, some say that, he didn't have his greatest year this year, right? But first of all, you're talking about a change of scenery. You're talking about putting him in Dan Quinn's defense. And then you're talking about he's going to have the luxury of having Diggs on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to lie. That does make me salivate just a little bit. Obviously, I wouldn't want to give up too much for the guy, but, and I get the baggage thing, but the Cowboys have never shied away from signing guys.
They love that. That's why I think it's something like that. That attracts them.
It does. It does because they want to. Jerry wants to be the guy that can bring a guy in and say, "Hey, I did it with this guy." Everybody told me, he might be a little bit too much of a distraction, this or that, but we won it with this guy. So I don't think that the Cowboys would shy away from Ramsey because of any of the baggage things. It's just what the asking price would be from the Rams.
Yeah, and I would check that. Dan Quinn, only one great cornerback. He had the Legion of Boom. So, and that secondary was fierce from their safety.
Yeah, they were solid. They were solid all the way around.
I had one guy in the defensive backfield. That was another defense that you'd love to see if Dallas can get, because I think if you to your point is, I think the phrase game manager for some reason just gets a bad name, like you're a bad quarterback, that there's something you know what I mean. I think if you can get a defense, like you're saying, if the Cowboys can add some pieces to the defense to really put it to that level, then you ask Dak to be the game manager. Just don't throw the ball like that on 2nd and 2 in the double. Be very conservative. Punting is not the worst thing because you got your defense right. Play smart, no turnovers. That's the recipe. That's been a recipe of success in the NFL. We could pick a bunch of teams through the years and say they won it that way. And so to your point, I agree. I think the focus in the offseason is, how can we make this defense even better? How can we make them even more dominant? And then via the draft, you pick up some pieces. Maybe, I know there's things on D-Hop. The only thing that worries me about D-Hop is, I don't know the contract. I don't know how the contract looks. He was hurt, then he was suspended. It was, there's always seems to be something. I don't know if I don't know if the value is there for it, but I'm not opposed to getting a veteran receiver. If Stephon Diggs, who had a little blow up in Buffalo, and he's unhappy and all of that, we could find a way to get him down to Dallas. I mean, I would be elated because I think he's one of the top receivers in the NFL.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
did you see Eli Apple? I didn't mean to cut you off.
That what?
Twitter war between them?
I have not. No.
All right. And if anyone's listening and hadn't seen it, do yourself a favor. When the show is over, make sure you stay on to the end. And Kelly, don't jump off on me. We got to finish this party. It is the best Twitter war that I've seen two players have, and then it got piled on by more players, and it's turning this huge. It's something to see. I love Twitter battles with players. It's
nice. I'm gonna have to go check that out for sure.
He called him out. He called him. He told him to have fun in Cancun, and then he put a 3 and he put the heart. So then they thought he was taking a shot at Hamlin. So then other players got in and say, "This is how you get beat up in real life." I mean, it's been a whole big thing, and I'm surprised it hasn't gone as big on. I don't know if it's gone. I haven't really watched my social media or ESPN or anything, but it's one of the best Twitter wars I've seen. And Eli Apple is notorious for just getting burnt and being abused and being all this, and they win the game. So for him to be talking all the smack, it's a lot of fun. So definitely, I didn't mean to change the subject.
No. I'm gonna have to check that out. But yeah, Diggs would be getting Diggs on that squad. Whoo, man. Yeah. Wouldn't that be something?
So that's what we're talking about, offseason. Get that defense tight. Fix a little bit of the offense. I mean, is that kind of what – are you wanting to see the 2023 Cowboy team kind of really shift that mindset to being a just defense dominant?
Yeah. I do at this point, just because I think your team's already set up to kind of be that way. I feel like you're closer to, and I understand that the offense, put up numbers. They were averaging 30-some points a game, whatever, all that stuff. But what did that offense really didn't do a whole lot when it came playoff time, at least, against one of the better defenses. I think it's got to be one of those defenses where you just, it's a defense that makes it tough for anybody to score. And yeah, I'd love to see them continue to pour their resources into the defense. And, because it's funny when you talk about the whole game manager thing, if Dak was a game manager in the San Francisco game, you win that game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you win it because, I mean, you threw a pick 6 and, in the shadow of your own end zone that cost you 6. And then, you throw a pick in your red zone when you're on the verge of scoring. I thought that was a scoring drive. I'm sitting there and I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm like, we're about to score a touchdown right here. We're
and getting the ball back. I mean,
Yeah.
more importantly, think about, like, that's what I'm saying is that's where that's where I got to give Dak a lot of the blame is you got to know that. You got to know the situation. You're getting down to crunch time. You're
Yeah.
going to go ahead and you're going to score and you're going to get the ball back at halftime. So you're going to be up either 3 or 7 and you're going to get the ball back. And instead you go back down 3. So it's just it could be a 10-point turnaround or 4 points or whatever you want to call it. It's just it can't happen. It changes everything.
Yeah. So. No. It's it was one of those things where you look at it and you're really discouraged because you're like, man, our defense laid it all out on the field, and and if not for a couple of turnovers that you expect your quarterback to play his best in the biggest moments, and he didn't, and it cost us the game. And I went out after that and I said, there's a few reasons that you can point to on why we lost this game. I said, but in my opinion, and Dak Prescott was the biggest because he was. I mean, he gave the ball away twice, and that's just, you can't do that. And so I mean, with I don't care. I don't need to see Dak Prescott being an MVP. I don't need him to throw for 5,000 yards and if Dak Prescott has a season where he comes out next year and he throws for 3,500 yards, 21, 22 touchdowns, and we win, 14 games, 13 games, but then we make it to the Super Bowl, I could care less.
I mean, and that's where, and it was a different game, so it drives me insane. And I really want to get someone posted a comment, and I want to really get your opinion on it. But I'm going to say my last thing. I've said this too many times, but I promise I won't say it again. But someone put it out there again, and it just bothers me. Different era. You can't compare stats from the 90s to 2020. Totally different game. Defense is different. The way the defensive backs could play were different. Totally different. If you don't believe it, just go watch some of the hits that some of these players were taking. Don't compare Dak to Troy Aikman. Don't disrespect Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Troy Aikman has 3 rings. Dak doesn't have that. Now, I hope Dak can get it. I hope he can. I really do. Believe me, shit. No one wants to win more than me, and you're probably 1B. So that is, I mean, don't get it twisted. But let's stop comparing these guys that have not accomplished what the other guys have accomplished in their time. Let them finish their time. It's the same thing with Tony Romo. I had to hear about it with Tony Romo forever and ever. And I love Tony Romo. Tony Romo saved this franchise from purgatory of just embarrassment. And he made us relevant. And shame on Jerry for not putting a few better pieces, but also shame on Romo because, like Dak, he's made some bad plays and bad games at critical times in the game, and you got to own it. I mean, you have to own it. You look and see Purdy, you look and see Hurts, you look and see these guys. They're in a championship game. Garoppolo's been to the Super Bowl. If you look at talent and you just say, hey, arm strength and all that, Dak's better probably than all of them, but the results aren't there in the games that matter. And Purdy, he didn't carve us up. He didn't play like some people, he killed you, he killed it. He didn't do shit against our defense. But what he did, he didn't turn the ball over. And when you got a defense, you don't turn the ball over, you give yourself an opportunity to win. And when we turned the ball over, we took that opportunity away.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the kind of thing that leads to frustration. And like you had said, before, but whether we have that or not, time will tell. But that's the kind of thing that can divide a locker room.
Yeah.
If you've got a quarterback that's that's giving the ball away, and your defense is playing lights out, and you lose because of turnovers, that's it. But right there, Trent Dilfer, Joe Flacco, and Eli Manning.
What did they all have in common?
Great point. Great defenses.
So you made the point right there, and I appreciate that, Winston, because you got a defense wins. They always say defense wins championships. So there was something that was a comment that got kind of dipped away, so I lost it. But it was about Jerry and Steven. So I know they get a lot of heat. A lot of it's probably well deserved. But when you look at this team, and you look at the team we have, and you look at what I mean, how much blame, and be honest, but how much blame can you really give the owners?
So, I don't my thing is I've had an up and down relationship when it comes to how I feel about Jerry Jones. But at the end of the day, I think if you took everybody that's come through that organization in the last 30 years since they were winning Super Bowls, he might not always go about it the right way, but I think Jerry wants to win more than anybody. A lot of people says all he cares about is money. All he wants to do is sell tickets, make money. That's all he wants to do. Put on a show. Could care less about winning in the playoffs. You see that guy after the loss, man. He looked like he wanted to cry.
Yeah.
I mean, that man feels that pain just like we all feel the pain, if not more. The Dallas Cowboys, that's his baby. He wants to get to them to the top of the heap. Now, Steven, however, a little bit, he's kind of hit and miss just because I feel like he's kind of a cheap ass, for a better lack of the words. I think he's responsible for Randy Gregory going to the Broncos, which, turns out that might not have been such a bad thing. He's kind of bonehead, didn't have a great year. But he's kind of one of them guys that just seems like he's a low ball kind of guy, and we don't got to spend money to win. And he's I posted something on Twitter about him saying that you don't win the Super Bowl in the offseason. And and I said, well, no, but you can lose one.
Yeah.
You can lose one, because I feel like the way that they went about things, or I feel like the way that the front office kind of went about things this year was just like, hey, we're not going to spend money. We're good with the guys we got. We're thinking, and just, you look at what other teams did, and they went out and got better, and we didn't. We stayed kind of status quo. The defense was had another good year, and I think built upon what they had the year before. I felt we were a little bit better this year, but ultimately pretty much the same result. We got a playoff win in the Bucks, but
Yeah.
I don't really beat my chest over the win against the Bucks, because like me and you have discussed, that was kind of an inferior team that we should have beat. We had no business losing to that team.
Yeah.
I would have felt a whole lot better if we were playing this Sunday, but yeah, I don't think that you can really put a ton of blame on these guys. I think they're putting the right guys in the right positions. I mean, I guarantee you, they sat down and talked to Quinn, and they sold him on sticking around.
Yeah.
I think they've got the right head coach in the position. I like Mike McCarthy. I'm not going to give the guy any criticisms. I thought he was aggressive when he needed to be this year. I thought he was smart when he needed to be this year. I thought he was great, and I thought he even cleaned up the penalties. Because a lot of people said there's no difference from this team from when Garrett was coach and then McCarthy's coach, and there's penalties and all this. But if you notice, like, the penalties got cleaned up. The penalties got cleaned up in this offense and in this team towards the end, towards the second half of the season. They really played penalty-free football. So yeah, I don't think you can blame Jerry and Steven on that. I'm not really down for all that, but
No, I did the thing I would say, and I was gonna say it after you, and Ronnie jumped in, is where I give a little bit is on Kellen Moore. And to your point too, is Steven, I have a more of an issue with Steven than I do Jerry. And it's weird because about, I don't know how many years ago it was, I used to be more worried about Jerry than Steven. I thought Steven was going to be the more sensible one and be more hands off. He's gotten a more hands on, and I think he's kind of gotten the way of probably what Jerry would like to do sometimes. Jerry's he says it, if you listen to his radio shows, that his interviews, he's always been a risk taker, and
yeah,
they haven't really taken a lot of risks in the last several years. So Steve, I have a more of an issue, but I can't blame where the team is on Jerry and Steven, because we have the talent, and I know we need a GM badly, they said as well. Well, that's not happening. But Will McClay he's your GM. I mean, he really is. I mean, he doesn't have the title because Jerry wants that. Jerry wanted that when he bought the team. His business card says it. If you don't believe me, I think I got one years ago, and it says, General GM, President GM. That's what he wants. That's he just wants the title. But the thing I'll say is, you guys, I mean, we could say what we want, but they draft well. All right, take Taco Charlton out of it. All right, take that one away. They draft well. I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about getting Bland in late rounds. You're talking
Yeah.
about getting a lot of free agent restricted free agents that they've gotten. I mean, you could say, hey, they got Dak in the 4th round, but their first round picks, except for Taco, and you go Taco, and then you probably have to go all the way back to Morris Claiborne, which Morris Claiborne was projected as to being, he graded out better than Deion Sanders at cornerback or something like that. So, I mean, I don't know if that was their fault. I mean, some players just don't develop. Taco was stupid. All right, we'll give him that. He let Marinelli, I think, was the one who wanted Taco for his defense or something like that when TJ Watt was there. But they've drafted well. They've been very, frugal, but the free agency pickups they've had, they haven't really had a ton of bust. I mean, they've been productive.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really give them it's hard to give Jerry a lot of heat. The culture's changed with McCarthy with Garrett. I mean, the culture's this team is culturally is so much different than when Garrett was the head coach.
Absolutely. And, I think that that's a thing that it's an easy thing to point to. I hear it all the time. This team's never going to win anything as long as the Joneses are running it. I don't buy that. I don't think that they're the ones that are holding this team back because, Jerry's not on the field throwing interceptions. Steven's not on the field, getting burnt an outside corner or not being able to stop the run. Like, the pieces are there on this team to win a Super Bowl, under the right circumstances with the right, play callers, Kellen Moore not being that guy. I think this is a Super Bowl team this year. I think they had a legit shot to do it. And I think that they're, I don't think that window closes going into 2023. I think we've got a legit shot going into next year. They just have to, they have to make the right moves. They have to bring in the right guys. They have to, do what they've been doing and build through the draft because they've been great at doing that. And they've, like you said, they've hit, home runs, not just in the first, they've done it in the second, the third, the fourth. I mean, they've found guys throughout the entire late rounds. I mean, they continue to show they're competent in drafting and they're competent in getting young guys on this team to continue building the core of this team. So as long as they continue doing that, man, I got faith that this team is going to continue to get better. We just need to be, they did not be so gun shy when it comes to maybe bringing in a couple of key free agents, even if they got to pay them some money. Hey, man, look at the results don't lie.
No, and you know what it is I preached it, all off season last year. Bring in guys with championship experience that been there. I mean, if you really look at our team, we don't have anyone who's been there.
Right.
We got no one in the locker room that says, "Hey, guys, this is how you get to the promised land." That's why I was so, not that Sue is this, is what he was, but that's why I was like, before the season, why don't we sign Sue? No one signed him. Why don't we go get him? Get somebody. He's got some nastiness to him. You know what I mean? Get something that it can make a difference and it's been there and it's been to the promised land. That could take these guys, say, "God, this is how you do it. This is how you're going to win a Super Bowl. What you guys are doing now ain't happening. You got to get this mentality." So I just, that's what I'm hoping that they do this season. This off season is enough. Let's stop screwing around with it. Let's get the right guys. Let's get the right quarters. Now you see some coaches getting let go, not renewed their contract. Offensive one, you got Philman, you got a few, I think there was another assistant head coach, whatever title that is. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do. McCarthy was kind of, if you watch his press conference, he didn't really commit a whole lot on certain coaches. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen with that offense. But I think they've got to do something this offseason to make a statement because the Giants are coming.
Yeah.
Philly's here. Washington, God knows what they're going to do. But, I mean, they're going to have some competition.
No, absolutely, man. And I think that, the biggest shock to me rolling into the offseason, the biggest shock to me would be if they did not fire Kellen Moore. That'd be the biggest shock. You're going to lose. I mean, Oh, don't get me wrong. I think, you know, we'd all be back watching this Cowboys team next year, but you're gonna have, you know, 85-90% of this fan base is gonna be going nuts if
Yeah.
they bring Kellen Moore back. We all know it. We all feel that Kellen Moore and Dak Prescott have hit their ceiling. You know, Dak Prescott's the guy you're not letting go. Kellen Moore is the guy that's got to go.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was elated to hear that we kept Dan Quinn. I was elated to hear he wants to stay on. You know, he's bought in. He's all in. His players are all in. You know, now the next shoe that needs to drop is Kellen Moore is out the door.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's got to happen. Yeah, and Jason Peters, they brought him in late. You know, yeah, he won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, but I mean, he was our backup. I'm talking about, I want a guy in the field that's going to smash somebody's face. I want someone on the field that's going to put his finger in someone's face. I need that. That's a championship mentality. A Michael Irvin. That mentality of someone who's gonna just bring some juice into this locker room and some accountability. I don't know if you got it with Peters. Maybe you did. I don't know. I mean, he's 41 years old. I mean, I'm glad that he came, but it wasn't like he was an integral part of
Right. Yeah.
it would have been like getting Von Miller. Now he got hurt, but that's why I was like Von Miller. That's who I wanted. And I was like, if you all right, you're gonna overpay. Now Bill's really paid. So but if you could get him, I would have tried like hell within reason. I would have exhausted all options to get a guy. Now forget he got hurt. Okay, so I don't want to hear that. Oh, he got hurt. But that, you see that what I mean, like that mentality of a guy that is in a locker room that's going to that will be well respected. And Peters is well respected, so don't take it the wrong way. But you know where I'm going with it. That's what I wanted them to see, is to get a guy that's got some tread left on the tires, that's done it, and that can come in here and just kind of elevate the mindset. Because I think this team, I think it's all in the head. It's not really in the talent. And I think maybe that's what Dak's problem too is. And I think that's where it changed with Kellen Moore. He needs someone to challenge him. I don't think Kellen Moore challenges Dak. Right? They're teammates, they're buddies, they work together, whatever.
Yep.
You know, I need a coach that's going to challenge them. And I think some of these players need someone in the locker room, aside from Parsons, of course, but a guy that's been there, done that, that's going to challenge them.
I agree. That's yeah, and you know, like I said, when you're talking about bringing in, you know, an offensive coordinator, you know, the next guy that you bring in should be a guy with some, you know, with some pedigree to him, and a guy that can, you know, not only maybe mold Dak Prescott into being a better quarterback, more efficient quarterback, you know, but a guy that's gonna, you know, let him know when he's you know, fucked up, like, hey, you know, this is not what we practice. This is not what we drew up. You know, what are you doing, man? You know, and honestly, what I'd really love to see too, man, is somebody that comes in there and gets Dak more involved in the run game. Now, I'm not saying Dak needs to do anything like Jalen Hurts, where he's rushing, you know, 100 yards a game, you know, shit like that. But Dak Prescott is very good when he uses his legs and he decides to run.
He runs weird though. Is it me? Or does he look awkward when he runs?
Well, you know what I think? I don't think that he always did that. I feel like since the injury, I feel like he does have a little bit different. Yeah,
I mean, but he can run. I mean, he still made plays. I agree. Yeah. I agree 100% with you. I think that he needs to use those legs more. I think it was either that second. It was a play in San Francisco where he could have run and he chose not to. So that, to your point, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, we digress. Yeah. So we've been at it for an hour. We've had a great time with the show. We've got a lot of things in the works. We got a lot of things in the plan. So we appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you do all that stuff. You know, share it. You got to spread the word to Cowboys Nation, because we got a lot of stuff happening. So next week, we rescheduled it. Talk to the man. I figured out the audio thing. We're going to have Brad Johnson coming on, Super Bowl champion. He's another guy, had a nice career. Some called him a game manager, but he made plays, and he had a great defense behind him. And, you know, he's a Super Bowl champion. And he said something funny, and I wanted to ask him about it. In one of his cameos, he did a joke to a guy. He did like some speech to him, and he goes, and I go to bed with my Super Bowl jersey every night, so I can wake up every morning smelling like a champion. It's just he's got a great sense of humor, but he's going to be coming on, and then we've got some other stuffs in the works. Draft is coming up. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Kelly can admit, or he can call. I'm not a draft expert. I'm not going to pretend to be. I know some college players, but I'm a Southern guy, so I like the ACC. I watch the SEC. I don't really watch much. I don't watch much Big 12 out Pac-10. I don't watch Pac-12, whatever they are. I don't watch a lot of that. But I've got some guys who do, and I got some guys who know a lot of college football. So we're going to be getting some experts on to maybe educate us a little bit on what prospects are out there, what would be a good fit for us by position. So I don't know what's your draft knowledge like, Kelly? Are you Mel Kiper?
Nope. Zero. I usually start, when the Super Bowl's over, I'll start going and looking at some of the top, the top part of the draft board, top 32. I'll look at some of those guys and kind of, I'm not breaking down game film. I'm not saying, hey, this guy, he's a great cornerback, but he doesn't open up his hips good enough. I'm not delving that deep into it. I'll look at guys that I like, and be like, hey, this is a guy that I like, but definitely not super knowledgeable on that. Big 12, I'm like you. I got, I watched teams in the Big 12, so players from the Big 12, I know them. But outside of that, I'm not a guy to come to and ask, who do you think we should draft? Because right now I couldn't tell you one name.
Yeah, I don't know names as well. Once you start saying it, like I knew the running back from Seattle. I remember he ran all over Miami, but I can't remember his name. And then obviously it was out there. So I know the people. I just need to be reminded of situations. So usually it's, hey, they beat the hell out of your team. Remember that guy? Oh yeah, he's good.
Oh yeah. That guy went for 100 yards and 150 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns and just killed her. Yeah, I remember that guy. He's pretty good.
So no, and also just big thanks to everyone in the chat. Bud. And I think Ronnie, and I think there was Winston and Ultra. A lot of people giving a lot of love, and we're having a great time with it, man. We got a lot of things in the works for Cowboys content. Like I said, we're different. We're fans, so we're giving the fans point of view. And anyone who knows me, seen a hype video, I'm very positive. It's going to be a lot. Kelly's going to have a hard time trying to break me down and not making me start making me yell at the Cowboys. I don't know if I could do what he does after the game. I want to. I wish I could. But what I do is I just play it. I put my headphones on, so so the kids don't hear it too much. But they follow you, so they probably see it anyway. But it's I think we're a good yin and yang, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So we're gonna rock this thing a little more and see what happens.
Absolutely, yeah. So thanks to everybody that's in, and remember, we can't do what we do without you guys, man. So like Mike said, hit the like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you got Dallas Cowboys friends that ain't tuning into this and want to hear a couple of fans chopping it up, what better way to do that than to share this show with them and get them on the chat? We could talk Cowboys football. We can roll this thing and keep on going because, the yin and the yang and, Mr. Hype, and then you get me afterwards just to see what's going to come out of my mouth. You never know, but we love talking football with you guys. So keep it rolling.
Keep it going. Hopefully next year we have a lot of positive stuff out of your mouth because we're going to be winning. We're going to get this thing right. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. We will see you next. Remember, keep an eye out for the Brad Johnson interview. We talked to him just before came in. That dude he's funny as hell, and it's going to be a good time, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it. And there's a lot of interesting things about his career that if you didn't follow him or you're younger, the dude, I mean, he's got a pretty good story. So we're looking forward to sharing it with you guys. So I appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Go Niners. You hear me? So bang, bang, Niner gang. You give me a bunch of crap. I'm rooting for you, and I'm also rooting for the Bengals. Who do you got this weekend, Kelly, before we sign out?
Well, I can't go against my boy Mahomes, man.
Okay, that's true.
I got to ride with Mahomes, man. But I'm going with Mahomes, and then obviously the Niners. There's not any scenario ever that I would ever be able to root for the Eagles. So go Niners. Let's go.
All right. Well, we will see you guys. We appreciate the love. we are going to exit out of here. You guys take care. Have a great weekend.
Gonna handle that business. We gotta get hype. Can you feel me? Now, can you?